Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I can't miss it.
To be honest with you, I think we'll shake that.
That Richardson. Yeah. I'll take the guy to get, let him play a year under.
The Vikings upper management and leadership will screw it up for them.
Well, what do I know?
That's, no, I'm saying that's been the problem with them, is their upper management.
Yeah.
It's just, you get something.
Dale made it back.
Put together just about there.
I think they finally, I think they finally got
That's a shame.
coached.
Yeah, I think they got the leadership there now.
It's coaches, yeah.
I wasn't a fan of second rounders.
Well, I think what's gonna happen if Rogers goes to New York Jets, it's like they'll follow in Parr's footsteps. Minnesota will get them in about a year.
Yes. Oh yeah, that's what happened last time.
But he almost got the Super Bowl. Yeah, I know, but I don't know. Yeah.
You did.
Sure.
You did well.
I forgot to bring my hammer down, but I'll call the meeting to order, the joint meeting of the Ramsey City County Commission. And I think we could start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Does everybody know everybody, or should we have introductions? Introductions? People are looking like, I don't know who the heck that is. So I guess I will start. I'm Jeff Ritt, Chairman of the Ramsey County Commission.
I'm Jim Moak, President of Devils Lake City Commission.
Spencer Alverson, Devils Lake City Administrator.
Rob Hash, City Commissioner.
Lee Gessner, Ramsey County Commissioner.
Dale Robbins, City Commissioner. Paul Wilhelmy, County Commissioner.
Jack Effer, City Attorney.
I'm Bo Cummings, I'm the State's Attorney.
Bill Otis, Ramsey County Commission.
Jason Pierce, Devils Lake City Commission.
Wayne Volk, Ramsey County Commissioner.
Andy Christopherson, Ramsey County Auditor.
Well, welcome everybody, and it's good to see the joint cooperation between the city and the county here. Hopefully the first of many, I think, as we progress through a lot of various issues of.
I would agree.
The item under the agenda today is Law Enforcement Center Facilities Ownership. And with that, we have a draft joint powers agreement for the facilities.
All right, let's go.
And really, I think we have a few different options. The way we're kind of looking at things, one, we could leave things as is. We could adopt the draft that was worked on and presented. We could come up with a completely new joint powers agreement. Or one of the things that was looked at was having our attorneys draft up an agreement to deed the property to the LEC board and have the LEC operate with their joint powers agreement with the entities of the city of Devils Lake, Ramsey County, Benson, Nelson, and any counties within that agreement. Is there obstacles to that from our legal minds?
Let me go first. No, I think probably legally that'd be the easiest thing to do is to deed it to the back to the LEC and let them run their facility themselves and proportion out all the costs. I think it's my understanding for sure from the city that one of the big issues with the facility agreement and the 50% ownership of the building is that it's going to probably within the next 10, 20 years, needs some capital improvements. But because the city co-owns it with the county, 50-50, then the improvements benefit the owners of the building. And so it's likely that the city and the county would be stuck 50-50 with those costs rather than have it be apportioned. I know there was an issue a while ago with, there's an $80,000 fix to the lights that needed to be made after an audit. And there were some problems with the previous agreement and the cost sharing. And so things happen from time to time regarding capital improvements. The easiest thing to do in terms of legally and what I think just from a sensical standpoint makes the most sense is to deed it back to the LEC, let the LEC own the building, make their capital improvements, fundraise for the capital improvements, and apportion the cost, which I believe much of the cost that the LEC has, they do apportion it out to each party or entity that uses it on a proportional basis. So that is, I believe that's the city's position, and I think I'm on the same page with the county, but I don't speak for the county. But Mayor, did I state that accurately? Is there anything I'm missing there?
I think that you're talking about what we've discussed.
Okay.
Well, I apologize because I don't have much of a voice. You're gonna have to listen hard. First and foremost, there are several different joint powers agreements out there, okay? This is just about the facilities, which means the land and the building that sits on it. I think Jack is right. I think deeding it to the LEC is the cleanest, easiest way to go. I think then the other three municipalities that are involved, they get a share of the cost. They get some skin in the game, right? But I think along with that, then goes the reentry center and the parole and probation building as well. One joint package, everything goes to the LEC board. Okay. I'm the one that put together the draft. This is a really, really rough draft. Commissioners, as far as I know, there's never been a facilities agreement before. So you really have two options. You can go through all the rigmarole and jump through all the hoops and do a facilities agreement, or you can deed it to the LEC and spend your time working on the operations joint powers agreement, which in my legal opinion would be a better use of your resources. Anybody have any questions?
And then that would entail all 5 entities at that time on the operation.
Correct. And you may have seen a draft that says April 21, 2021 at the top. That's the draft of the operations. But we're not really getting too far into that.
So what happens if, say there's 5 entities now, and all of a sudden down the road, someone wants to close their jail and they want to come here? Do they pick up costs then too, or are they going to come in like we're doing it now, or how would that be split up? Or is that something the LEC would have to decide?
So that's a good question. We would go to the LEC depending on how you draft your management agreement. In theory, they would be a voting big member just like everybody else. So if somebody wanted to buy in, give them a chance to buy in and have their seat at the table.
But that's what I'm asking. They would have, not just wait until the facilities put up. Say one day you put up a facility, and all of a sudden, hey, they got this nice facility. We want to jump on board. There's got to be some kind of cost there too, otherwise, it would never sustain. I don't think it could.
Chairman, Mayor Muller, if I could just, I think maybe good for discussion between the commissioners to set a framework and a foundation as to if there was a significant capital improvement that needed to happen at the LEC, say $500,000 remodel, $1 million remodel, what would the process look like that would be needed to get that done with the current agreements that are in place? That way we can just have a full understanding as to what is in place right now if there was a big capital improvement need.
Well, in my opinion, we take the formula that we have in place right now. Depends on if it was for the jail, the 911, or the reentry center. There's formulas for each right now. If it was at the jail, the formula would be used to figure out who owes what proportionally for that project, like we did when we put in the cameras and everything. That was about $1 million project. The city and the county got the biggest hit on it, but the other 3 counties got their hit as well based on the amount of usage they use. If it was for 911, the city gets the county gets the biggest hit no matter what at the jail, it seems like. But if it was 911, the city would get the bigger hit on those improvements based on the usage there. So I think the formula that we have in place is really good. It seems fair to me, type of thing.
It seems like it has worked in the past, similar to what Commissioner Robbins mentioned with the security enhancements with the cameras. I think everybody had a piece of the pie, and some of us had bigger pieces and slices based upon that percentage and their usage. That formula that's been used in the past, it's been a doable system. And I think if it was an immediate expense, I think probably having to go out and take out a loan for that funding if it's something that wasn't in the budget. And you have the counties, the city, maybe budget for that in the following year, because we understand that everybody's under obligation to have a budget in a timely manner. But if something comes up that after that budget is approved and that was deemed necessary and immediate, I would think that taking out a loan and coming back with the agreements of the entities involved in the joint powers of the operations.
So,
Wouldn't that be
strictly procedurally, so let's say that there's a big capital improvement needed. Like right now, it would need the approval of the LEC board as well as both the city commission and the county commission. Right, is that accurate?
Well, right now, pre-Jim, the thought was always, that say we need $1 million at the LEC. The previous city administration said the LEC board can't even approve that because the city and the county have to approve any capital improvements before anything gets done at the LEC. So that's the way it is. That's the way it is kind of right now, but it's changed with leadership.
So yeah, that's the question. Is that legally true?
So the way that it's operating right now, you're under a patchwork quilt of all different little agreements from 1973 with amendments in the 80s, amendments in 2006. If you look at the 73 one, it says 50% city, 50% county. So at the end of the day, if somebody really wanted to challenge and say maintenance and operation of facilities, that falls 50-50. If you look at the agreement from 73, it also talks about needing to come back to your county, or not your county, back to your commissions to get approval for the budget. So, I mean,
Is that the joint powers agreement between the city and the county alone? That's not the joint powers agreement that has Towner County, Eddy County, and Nelson County, is it?
right, so what I'm talking about says cooperative agreement on the top. This is the original 1973. I think we're getting a little far afield here. I don't know that we really need to confuse the issue. The issue is it comes back to bottom line, right now, city and county are 50-50 responsible. City doesn't want to pay 50% of the bill, and that's understandable based on your usage. County doesn't want to be caught on the hook for 100% of the bill. So our suggestion is we deed it to the LEC and everybody gets a portion of it.
And that's the way it is right now. Everybody gets a portion. I think the thing is right now, we're trying to get rid of the city thinking they have to approve stuff when it gets presented as a capital expenditure. Because that's the way we've been operating is.
Do we have to have the board accept it? I mean, they have to agree to take it on and be the responsible party? right? Is that, or are we just handing it to them and they just have to accept it back?
Legally, the county and the city are the two owners of the land and the buildings
That
that
the board will be the operators of it and the spokesperson for it?
You want to help me out here, little Jack?
So, yeah, I'm just
so I'm clear on
looking
this.
through the agreement, and so if I don't answer your question, let me know, and I'll probably re-ask it, try again. First agreement was the 1973, right? The newest agreement that we're operating under amended or modified that only as to what is in the current joint powers agreement. What the current joint powers agreement did not amend of the 1973 agreement is that the city and county are responsible for 50% of any capital improvements, which before they're made, need to be approved by each separate board.
I get
So,
that.
yeah. And so that, there's not really a way around apportioning it unless we deed it back.
We get
Well,
down to
that's-
what he's asking is that if we deed it to the LEC,
Yep.
does the board, the LEC board take control, or are they the only ones? Correct, is what you're
Correct.
asking.
And we support them financially based on what their decisions.
Their decisions.
Yes. That would be my understanding, is the LEC board would then run the LEC.
Right, that's,
How the board is comprised, I believe it would stay the same, but I don't know if there's a way to necessarily guarantee it. But here's the deal. If they change the composition of the board, they're still going to have to reach out to the city and the county and Benson County and Nelson County and the tribe, right, and Eddy County. And they're gonna have to have agreements with all of those counties to a cost share on a proportional basis that each entity, the city and the different counties will have to agree to. Does that kind of answer your question and make
Yes.
sense?
Here's the thing that came up when we were visiting the other night. Let's say the LEC says, the LEC board says, here's our formula, which might change from the one we have right now. Everybody take it back to their respective commissions and get it approved and bring it back, and then we'll vote on it at the LEC meeting. So let's say the city, for instance, doesn't approve the new formula, but it goes back and we vote no, everybody else votes yes, it passes. Just because we don't approve it doesn't mean it's not gonna pass. Would that be fair?
Correct.
Okay.
Right, but I don't think you necessarily have to do it in one agreement. The LEC can theoretically do separate agreements with each. They're their own entity. They can run their business how they want. They can do separate agreements with the city. They can do a separate with the county or with each county. Now, whether that's advisable, that's a question for them, because then you can get into, people being upset for different things being charged, or different rates being charged to different entities, so on and so forth. But I think then there's leverage for both sides, because the LEC, if one of the, say Nelson County wanted to use the facility at the same rate, but they're like, we only have 50 people in your jail a year, and we just don't really want to pay the LEC. I think the LEC can just reject anyone from Nelson County and not allow them.
Oh, yeah.
So same with the city. If the city doesn't agree to it and doesn't want to pay their bill, there's actions that the LEC can take to, to rectify that.
Right. I think we're getting a little sideways. If we could pull everybody back and look at what we want to do with the original operations. What we're here to discuss is, do we want to take a look at a draft of operating it like we have been, or do we want to deed that over to the LEC? And the LEC boards would have to take that back to their respective counties and see if their entire commissions will agree to that.
I think that's the time that you start developing your operations, I mean, your board makeup, then you, and develop a new operations plan, because we know we have to update it. And we'll have to put those formulas in, addressing them accordingly to how we want it to operate. And I just, if I may ask, do we have a Spirit Lake person on this board? I believe that we should probably have that, if they're utilizing it.
If you can recruit one,
Pardon?
if you can recruit one, I'll be with you all the way.
Okay. No, I mean,
I think they've tried. I think they've tried.
have they? Okay, well, if you've
Can
tried.
you just assign Joe to do it?
I don't know that Spirit Lake uses their prisoners.
See.
They have their own jail.
They have their own jail.
Okay, well, I didn't know if that, as good for neighbors, you know, they were involved in it. We have a lot of prisoners.
Maybe stepping on Benson County's relationship that they have with the tribal government, you know, it's 100% within the boundaries of Benson County, so.
So I got a question for the lawyers. Sorry.
Go ahead.
If we would deed this to them, and it goes broke tomorrow, then
Well,
who's stopped?
We close the doors and we start over.
so
I'm just asking a question because, you know, it could happen, right?
I want you to think about it this way. Some rich uncle of yours, way off, dies and deeds you a piece of property. You don't get to say, no, I don't want that, right? It comes to you if it's been passed to. It becomes your responsibility. It's the same thing with the law enforcement. I don't foresee that it's gonna go.
No, I'm tracking. Yeah. But I don't believe they have an open checkbook. I mean, we have to have, there's gotta be some sorts of checks and
Well,
balances,
you still
similar
got,
to what's going on.
you still got a member from each
Yeah.
member on that board, so it's not like,
Well,
you
and
know,
I
we're gonna
guess
go crazy overnight.
I would like to see the attorneys come up with this purchase agreement or this deed or whatever you want to call it, with some sort of, if the LEC defuncts as a board, that the city of Devils Lake and Ramsey County retain ownership of property. It still lies within Ramsey County, still lies within the city of Devils Lake. It'll still be our property if the LEC board were to go.
Why would you want that headache?
Yeah, well.
Well, I'm just saying, if for some reason,
Well,
let's say they, just because of the age of the facility, they can't,
maintain it.
they, just because of the age of facility, they can't pass the DOC inspection, right? I mean, there's just absolutely no way, so it goes defunct. You're gonna have basically, if you retain ownership, you're gonna have the expense of either knocking it down, you know.
City, we were gonna have that anyhow. It's just, if everybody walked away down the road at some point in time, it would be either the counties or the cities to deal with.
And a joint powers agreement doesn't give that law enforcement and board a taxing authority.
Right.
So they can't create their own tax district, or that's still within the county and the city's responsibility. And what we're obligated to either house our prisoners locally within a jail or contract that with a other regional facility that is approved under the DOCR. So either way, you're stuck to house prisoners.
Well, that I understand, but what I'm saying is if you own a physical facility, if they go broke, the facility, I mean, you're gonna have basically an abandoned building. I mean, you're not gonna go in there and fix it up if the LEC can't run it and keep it maintained. See what I'm saying? I mean, you're gonna end up, are you gonna try and put the jail back in that spot, or, because at some point you're not gonna have a jail, you're gonna have to figure something out. Is that not coming across?
Well, Ed always used to say, state statute says Ramsey County will have a jail, and we will have a jail no matter what. That was Ed's line, he always used that. Didn't matter what it costs, Ramsey County is required to have a jail, or you're gonna haul them to Grand Forks, which you can't afford anyway. So you put your money into the jail here and keep floating the boat as much as you
But,
can.
and I think we're, again, getting too far ahead if at some point we need to build a new facility, we build it at the same spot. That's a bridge we'll cross it at some point when it comes.
I think we wanted to keep this as simple as possible for right now, and just agree that if we do want to agree that we deed it to the board, and then at a later date, we start working on an operation and facilities plan.
So can you deed it to them without their acknowledging it?
Well,
Technically, you could. Peggy and Star are here, maybe we want to hear from them and see.
You guys have been there forever if you got it. I thought, because we talked about this at LEC meetings type of thing, you know, what's the city and county gonna do? I mean, that's been a hurdle for 2 to 3 years type of thing. Now we're finally at the hurdle.
Okay, all right. Well, since I've been there long, I can address some of the thoughts and questions.
would you come a little,
Yes, I'm sorry.
because we are live
Okay.
and we are online, so thank you, Cheryl.
There were some questions as to what would happen if you deeded it or if other organizations wanted to join us. That has been discussed in the past, and there would be a buy-in situation. That's the best way to keep it as fair as to the original group as possible, because you've all put so much of your time and your thought and your efforts into keeping that facility going over the years. My thought is that the LEC is governed by a bit of all of you and the other counties that are involved. That I think needs to remain in place. It's a good opportunity for all of our communities to be able to be a part of it, have a say in it. Yes, you all need that. This is your community, this is our community. We want to make sure that we're doing what's right, not everyone here. As far as what is the best avenue to do that would probably be our boards. I would really put it toward the board to let them be the deciding factor on whether or not they want to go with the deeded situation, with the city and the county retaining underlying ownership of the property and the buildings. If that's possible.
So the way it could work in theory, sometimes you'll see like an estate give a big chunk of land to a city or a county and say, this can be used as a park. But if it ever stops getting used as a park, then it comes back to our estate. It would roughly be the same thing here. Okay, we're giving this to the LEC board for use in corrections and related purposes. If for some reason that ever stops, it's gotta come back to us, if that's what you want.
So my understanding is more like a trust.
Sort of.
Kind of.
Is the juice worth the squeeze on that, in a weird way like that? Because what if that building goes under and is no longer occupied?
Well, we can't
What's
control
the-
that, we just have to deal with it.
Right, but that's the purpose of the question. So what is that? What's that worth? $500,000 at that point, that piece of land in the building? So it's like,
There'll be many discussions or something before some of that happens, I'm sure.
and the LEC probably have to sheriff sale it if they went under.
And I don't mean to put words in Jack's mouth, but I think what Jack is saying is, if you deed it to the LEC, the management group, and then the whole thing folds, then it's their responsibility to turn everything upside down, sell everything off, and everybody gets their share. Why would we want it? All right?
Yeah, or if it goes under and you want to buy it back rather than do some type of weird, conveyance like they do for charitable purposes, why Maybe we do it, we give it to them in a, more of a contract agreement and just put in a right of first refusal that if the LEC ever goes upside down or decides to sell the building and the land, that the city and the county have the first option to purchase. That would be more sensible than some type of remainder interest, in my opinion.
I would agree.
Be more workable legally too, I think.
Also, just so everybody's on the same page, no one municipality can afford to operate the jail by itself. Period.
And that's the benefit of having a multi-county jurisdictional facility is that they bring in some revenue and allow us the opportunity to be able to keep the doors open, the lights on, and they have an opportunity for a place to house their prisoners or their people that they need to take off the street instead of being necessary to lock up. And it's a way that we all kind of, and because no one, I don't think, in this day and age could build a jail all by themselves. I don't think any of our neighboring counties want to take on that responsibility. You know, having those other entities involved is a good partnership that has worked for 50 years.
So if it comes down to deeding it over to them, basically all it's gonna do is it's gonna take responsibility from the board having to come to the city and the county and get the approval to make the payments to be able to make them. But they still have the board still running it the way it's always been done, but they won't have to have approval from the city and the county. I mean,
And that's what that's all we're trying to get past, that
Yeah.
little thing you said
Right
there.
there.
that's all we're trying to change, right?
Yeah, and so in my mind, it's just, like you said, if nobody can afford to build one, but if there were some grants out there, my thought was, we lease it to them for $1 a year, we retain ownership with the dialogue that says the LEC board is responsible for all maintenance, upkeep, and capital improvements at the facility, period. You're leasing it to you for $1, you take care of it, we don't have any right, or we can't say, no, you can't put that lighting system in. That way, we still own it in the background if there was ever any government funding available for it, it's the federal government or state government. That's the only thing that I keep wondering to myself is if we deed it to them, we don't have any ownership. There's no government entity tied to it anymore, just a board. You know,
So with
we'd
the
be
board,
shooting
you can't apply for,
I don't know, I mean, Jack and I
Well,
talked it
They
through.
can,
because it's still
yeah.
run by counties.
And it's still a political subdivision of the state of North Dakota. So,
How would it be a political subdivision? The,
Maintained by city,
well,
counties and cities.
it's created through a joint powers agreement from city and county governments.
We're still basically paying these, correct?
I haven't been up, so I would refer to Colorado, whether it's
What was the question?
If it come down to where grants and stuff like that were available, would the board still be able to apply for those? Would we still be under a
political subdivision.
political subdivision?
So I can't give you a definite answer, but what I would say is more likely than not, we'd be able to, because it would be run by 5 political subdivisions.
Is it, you guys apply for grants now, right? I mean,
There's very few brick and mortar grants, but if there ever was.
Well, I mean, as far as other grants go, I mean, you,
But at some point, with all these mandates that the Department of Corrections puts down, there should be some funding somewhere, you would think, and I don't know, you would just think there would be. It's frustrating that there isn't because we're not the only ones going through this, I gotta believe.
Because, you know, it's basically, the city of Devils Lake and Ramsey County should not be in the business of running a jail. We shouldn't be doing that. If we have the joint powers for the management of it from the board, and everybody pays their fair share, and the business is still getting done, it just takes Ramsey County and the city of Devils Lake out of the jailer business. You know, it's not getting too much into, yes.
One thing I would like to point out for all of the board's information here is the LEC is a joint powers from yourselves and and the other counties that are involved. However, that makes us kind of a unicorn. We can't go after some grants because they're strictly for local and county governments. We are not a local or county government. We do not have the ability to get some grants. We need you all as part of the ability to get some of that funding.
Now, if you were a local board, can you get better opportunities at grants? Maybe you can get better, maybe better chances.
I can't speak to that, but I can say that because we aren't, because we're a subsidy, we're a part of your government's line, we personally cannot go after grants.
But we would still have the ability to do it for,
You.
yes,
yes.
that's all I want to, you know, that's,
Yep.
it's not gonna take us out of the ability to do it if we
I
deed
think,
it over.
like the fire department goes on to the city's done number and gets grants, I mean, for funding. I would say there'd be no reason, airport does all the time. I wouldn't think it'd be much different than the function of our airport and airport authority.
But we have tried in the past to get certain grants and have been denied because we are not city, county, state government.
So what kind of grants are you talking about? Is it
Grants for improvements to the jail, that kind of thing.
so building?
Block grants. There's been a few, I haven't been involved with all of them, mind you. I can't specifically say which grants that were tried for.
But you, I mean, I'm talking, so you have tried to get construction
Yes.
grants that you could not get.
Yeah,
That was just the LEC itself.
correct.
I think the state should have clearly defined the joint powers agreements under this. They certainly have done a much better job in the water world. We've been able to create joint powers agreements since the 80s with new water boards and adjoining counties. And it seems to have worked really well, and they've given us a clear definition of what our duties, responsibilities, and our limitations are. Where this is pretty vague, that a city and county can establish and maintain pursuant to chapters 5440 and 5440.3 a correctional facility in conjunction with other counties and cities. Pretty vague, pretty broad. But
Chairman Maribel and commissioners here, I think, you know, the crux of the issue is to be building owners or to not be building owners. And I think it's important as policymakers to consider, as I want to make sure I'm doing my job, that both the police department and the sheriff's office are in that facility. So if you did deed that to the law enforcement center, you're at one of the three-legged stools of our public safety would be the city's police department would not be in a city-owned building. The sheriff's office would not be in a county-owned building. So that is something you would also want to consider and know. And then I know the word that I think when they come, there's a line item for rent or I think it's really meant maintenance. But if the city is not the owner of the building and we are in there, will there be associated lease or rent payments that you could see coming down the road for use of that space if you're not owning the building? So just a few things to consider as you determine what to do with the building.
we could be back right into the situation. I think, do either of you see an issue with the city, county not necessarily owning a facility where it houses our sheriff's department or police department?
So again, that comes back to the operation agreement. The reality is, you still do own it, you just don't own 50% of it. Right? You own whatever percentage that you pay in. That's what you own, all right? State law says that the county sheriff has to run and maintain a jail unless you have a better option. Okay? So technically, Sheriff Lang's gonna be there no matter what, right? Yep. So
So you're saying in the agreement, it should state
you can state
that they won't pay any more and, say what if they're paying.
But that'll come later. I think
Yeah.
what we have to determine is, do we or don't we want to
Yeah.
make this happen? And then after that, then we have to hammer out with the more fine details.
Well, and I think we've dished up a lot on our plate tonight, and something we can take back to our respective commissions, is that this is the direction that the joint wants to go to, the city and the county. And we'll bring it up at our law enforcement center board to see if the law enforcement center board and the participating counties are willing to go ahead with or look into that. And we both meet next week officially on our own. You meet on Monday, the 20th, we meet on the 21st, correct? And if we agree that's the direction that we want our attorneys to go towards, maybe it would be potential that they could have something roughly for us then. And if we need to, we could come back and reconvene at another time with the joint city county.
I don't think that's a realistic timeline, Jeff. I'm not gonna be able to have property documents for you.
Okay, that's understandable. It'd be a big document.
But tonight, if we satisfy just whether we agree to move ahead or not, right?
Yeah.
And then you can still take that to the board, and then everything kind of, gonna take time, I get that.
We can start the process. It comes down to a question of, right now you are on the hook for 50% each. At the end of the day, I know that it's not been run that way, but if you look at the paper, that's what it says. So the question is, do you want to give the three other entities some skin in the game and also share the costs? Which, I know that's how we do it, but right now they're not technically owners of the property. So it's like asking your tenant to fix your property for you. That's kind of what you're asking them to do right now.
So you're saying technically, Benson County could be considered a part owner of the facility if we deed it all over to them. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes.
But being a part owner doesn't mean if you leave, you get any assets when you leave or any refunds or anything like that. Or would that be fair?
That would come down to how you draft your agreement, but I don't think you would get the cash out like you would at the casino, right?
Right. If it's just, you are considered an owner because you're gonna help us pay the bills, but if you elect to go somewhere else, you're not taking anything with you when you leave.
Correct.
I guess just for ease of this decision-making is maybe we take this decision back to our respective commission meetings at the next meeting and each one vote how they want to operate. Would that be better? That, I don't know that we're able to come to a consensus here yet tonight.
Well, and I'm not sure if the joint meeting of the city and county, if we'd have the ability to make a motion individually to give our attorneys that direction, or would we?
Do you have to
We
vote
have-
separately?
I mean, we have forums.
We do.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it's an open meeting.
open meeting.
I think at least the city could vote on it. We didn't want to go. If we wanted to do it then.
If we want to vote on a direction, I suppose that.
So are we gonna, just to clarify, are we gonna?
Well, we have to have a motion by somebody.
Exploring more, or is it going to be to go forward with, deeding or starting the process of deeding the
Drafting the.
I think it'd have to be
draft the agreement to
explored, because
deed
you
the
got three
property.
other entities that, I don't know if they know exactly what, I mean, I'm sure they know something. But I think the three, this is a decision of 5 members, really. And it's, two members are the ones putting the idea forward, but I think you still need buy-in from the other three to start out on a level field without somebody, you don't want 4 members saying yes and one saying, this is gonna be a mistake and we're pissed about it, now you jammed it down our throat. So I think the thing should be to explore with the other 3 entities that aren't represented here tonight.
I don't think they
there's only
matter
2
for
owners.
purposes of this
Right,
conversation, so.
But I
They're not
understand.
owners of the building, and the LEC proportionately cost shares anyways, and so it's not really going to affect them.
Well, it is
at
gonna
all.
affect them at some point, really. I mean, I think it's important to get their input at this stage rather than somewhere down the road, just as a communications thing, because if we don't know where we're going exactly,
Just to give you a little background, the reason we haven't got a current signed joint powers agreement between the city, the county, and the other counties is because the city and the county don't have a signed, updated joint powers agreement. So that, I think that's where we're trying to, I think they'll be fine wherever it goes once we get our joint powers agreement. I mean, that's where we can't get our current one
agreement
signed.
be based on all 5 of us, so?
No,
If
I
we-
think that would
if we
just be
do
the city
this-
and the county. I'm thinking they're just saying, city and county decide what you want to do. Either give it to us or lease it to us, but just let us make the decisions on how it's operated, capital improvements and day-to-day expenses. Does that
so they're a
sound
little
fair?
more involved in this.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're saying if we make the motion
Yep.
to have them draw up a draft that we can take to the LEC board, present to the other counties that they can take back? No?
No.
This
So
is just
it would
between
just be
the city and
the,
the county.
the operate or the ownership of the facility. And then the joint powers amongst.
Sorry, I
the
misunderstood.
entities would be a different agreement.
If you deeded the building over, there wouldn't be a joint powers anymore between the city and county, would there? Correct.
It would say something
Just-
like any past agreements are now null and void or something like that.
It would just be deeded over, and then you just do a joint powers for the board. Correct.
Operation of the facility.
Yeah. There'd be no more joint powers for the city and county.
Correct.
So you clean up a whole mess.
Right, and that's always been the hurdle for the five entities to get their document done, because it's like, you guys don't even have yours figured out. How can we do ours?
I'll make a motion for the attorneys to start putting together the draft of the agreement.
Okay. Now, should we do separate motions?
Legal tell us how we can do that.
We should probably do it separate. The city should do their own, but we should clarify specifically, do we want one agreement presented? Do we want to deed to the property, or do we want a couple, like, do we want the leasing option? That's what we need to clarify with our motion.
If I could just maybe ask city attorney, and this is what I would just recommend as city administrator with the city commission. We have a meeting on March 20th. I could work with the city attorney. We could maybe just draft a resolution expressing the intention and the desire to deed the property or relinquish our ownership of that property. Once that's, if that were to be approved by the city commission, I think it gives the green light for the city attorney to start working on the details. The attorneys start working on the details in regards to specifics of what, if there was an agreement, what it would look like. And then at least we just publicly communicated with formal action at a formal city commission meeting via resolution, that was our intention. If the county commission wished to do the same, I think that would be a lot cleaner than taking an action. And I don't think, just given the agenda, that there was an expectation there would be formal action taken tonight. So that'd be my recommendation to you.
I think you can do everything that Spencer just said right now by motion, and then we don't have to do the same thing and have the same discussion on Monday. So if it's the commission's wishes, I think the agenda is proper. I think the meeting's formal enough, we have quorum. So it'd probably be beneficial to Spencer that he doesn't have to write a resolution.
I have no worry about the word. I have no.
No,
worry about
not,
the word.
I know, and I'm not saying that, you obviously don't.
Basically, if we do this tonight, you'd still have to do it.
I think it would just be more clean and more formal if we did it that way. And that's what I would.
I'd prefer to do it tonight. That's why we're here. But it's,
Yeah.
I serve at the pleasure of the commissioners.
Okay, so you have three options before you. You can look at the agreement that I have drafted for you, which is 50-50, which is how it is under the agreements right now. You can decide to deed it, or you can do some third course of action, right? Those are your three options that you have available to you. We're not the policymakers, you're the policymakers. So you have to decide what's right for your entity. Is it worth the headache? Maybe it is. Maybe tonight's not the time to make a decision. However, I think Jack is right. I think it's proper if you want to give us some marching orders tonight. It's okay. You don't need to say we're 100% committed. We just need to have some idea what we're doing here, so we're not filling our thumbs.
So
It'd just be getting everything, it'd be a motion to move forward in a particular direction or basically a verbal resolution.
but I think the consensus on the city side is we want to just deed it over to the LEC. So just to make that statement, so it comes out clear, do we get a?
So is there a motion to move forward?
We've got-
in that direction?
We didn't have a second, so.
I put forward a motion to give you the opportunity to draft, we deeded the property over,
An agreement.
an
yeah,
agreement
what
over
would
to
be
the
property.
LEC. So that way we have something, once that's done, to talk about at our city commission meeting. The Ramsey County Commission would have something to look at. And then we could make a final decision based off of the draft and, or the joint powers and the draft on the deeding. So we're not wondering what it's gonna look like. And we're gonna sit here and question and what if everything, for the next hour and a half. And at least we have something to look at and say, okay, well, I don't agree with that. Well, I don't agree with this. We at least have something to base it off of.
So that's a motion on your part?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Pierce on the city side of the fence.
I'll second that, and basically the direction, it's just a directive to get a document going that states that we want to deed the property over to the
No
LEC.
decisions beyond that.
No, nothing beyond that,
And we
just
have a second. Okay, any further discussion? No further discussion. All city commissioners in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Did you get that, Ken? Okay, thank you. And it's on public records.
So I would recommend the county do the same thing, if that's the wishes of the county commission.
I'll make the same one.
Do we have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to give our, what Commissioner Pierce said, give our attorney the direction of drafting up an agreement and bringing it back to the commission for discussion. Any further discussion? County commissioners, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. That's all we have on our agenda for this evening. I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. And thank Mayor Mo and Administrator Alderson for their work and cooperation setting this up, and Auditor Mr. Anderson. Thank you very much.
We too would like to thank you for your cooperation and working together, and I look forward to further following.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Good evening. Yeah, okay.
Meeting's adjourned.
Well,